We're going to have to leave it there. Edward Wyckoff Williams, thank you so much. As promised here, President Obama delivering right now in Illinois, just outside Chicago, his first energy speech of his second term. Let's take a listen.
Today to talk about what should be our top priority as a nation, and that's reigniting the true engine of America's economic growth, a rising, thriving middle class and an economy built on innovation. In my State of the Union address, I said our most important task was to drive that economic growth, and I meant it. And every day we should be asking ourselves three questions. How do we make America a magnet for good jobs? How do we equip our people with the skills and training to do those jobs? And how do we make sure that hard work leads to a decent living? Well, those of you who have chairs, I wasn't sure everybody had chairs there. Please feel free to sit down. I'm sorry. Everybody was standing. I thought Argonne, one of the effects of the sequester, you had to get rid of chairs. That's good. I'm glad we got some chairs here. So I chose Argonne National Lab because right now, few areas hold more promise for creating good jobs and growing our economy than how we use American energy. After years of talking about it, we're finally poised to take control of our energy future. We produce more oil than we have in 15 years. We import less oil than we have in 20 years. We've doubled the amount of renewable energy that we generate from sources like wind and solar, with tens of thousands of good jobs to show for it. We're producing more natural gas than we ever have before, with hundreds of thousands of good jobs to show for it. We supported the first new nuclear power plant in America since the 1970s. And we're sending less carbon pollution into the environment than we have in nearly 20 years. So we're making real progress across the board. And it's possible, in part, because of labs like this and outstanding scientists like so many of you, entrepreneurs, innovators, all of you who are working together to take your discoveries and turn them into a business. So think about this. Just a few years ago, the American auto industry was flatlining. Today, thanks in part to discoveries made right here at Argonne, some of the most high-tech, fuel-efficient, pretty spiffy cars in the world are once again designed, engineered, and built here in the United States. And that's why we have to keep investing in scientific research. That's why we have to maintain our edge. Because the work you're doing today will end up in the products that we make and sell tomorrow. You're helping to secure our energy future. And if we do it well, then that's going to help us avoid some of the perils of climate change. It'll leave a healthier planet for our kids. But to do it, we've got to make sure that we're making the right choices in Washington. Just the other day, Dr. Isaacs and directors of two of our other national laboratories wrote about the effects of the so-called sequester, these across-the-board budget cuts put in place 2 weeks ago, and specifically the effects it'll have on America's scientific research. And one of the reasons I was opposed to these cuts is because they don't distinguish between wasteful programs and vital investments. They don't trim the fat, they cut into muscle and into bone. Like research and development being done right here that not only gives a great place for young researchers to come and ply their trade, but also ends up creating all kinds of spin-offs that create good jobs and good wages. So Dr. Isaacs said these cuts will force him to stop any new project that's coming down the line. And I'm quoting him now. He says, "This sudden halt on new starts will freeze American science in place while the rest of the world races forward, and it will knock a generation of young scientists off their stride, ultimately costing billions of dollars in missed future opportunities." I mean, essentially, because of this sequester, we're looking at 2 years where we don't start new research. And at a time when every month you got to replace your smartphone because something new's come up. Imagine what that means when China and Germany and Japan are all continuing to plump up their basic research, and we're just sitting there doing nothing. We can't afford to miss these opportunities while the rest of the world races forward. We have to seize these opportunities. I want the next great job-creating breakthroughs, whether it's in energy or nanotechnology or bioengineering. I want those breakthroughs to be right here in the United States of America, creating American jobs and maintaining our technological lead. So I just want to be clear. These cuts will harm, not help our economy. They aren't the smart way to cut our deficits. And that's why I'm reaching out to Republicans and Democrats to come together around a balanced approach, a smart, phased-in approach to deficit reduction that includes smart spending cuts and entitlement reforms and new revenue, and that won't hurt our middle class or slow economic growth. And if we do that, then we can move beyond governing from crisis to crisis to crisis, and we keep our focus on policies that actually create jobs and grow our economy and move forward to face all the other challenges we face, from fixing our broken immigration system to educating our kids to keeping them safe from gun violence. And few pieces of business are more important for us than getting our energy future right. So here at Argonne and other labs around the country, scientists are working on getting us where we need to get 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Today, what most Americans feel first when it comes to energy prices or energy issues are prices that they pay at the pump. And over the past few weeks, we went through another spike in gas prices. Some people are nodding here. They weren't happy about it. The problem is this happens every year. Happened last year, the year before that. And it's a serious blow to family budgets. It feels like you're getting hit with a new tax coming right out of your pocket. And every time it happens, politicians, they dust off their three-point plans for $2 gas, but nothing happens, and then we go through the same cycle again. But here's the thing. Over the past 4 years, we haven't just talked about it. We've actually started to do something about it. We've worked with auto companies to put in place the toughest fuel economy standards in our history. And what that means is by the middle of the next decade, our cars will go twice as far on a gallon of gas. And the standards that we set are part of what's driving some of the amazing scientists and engineers who are working here at Argonne Labs. We've set some achievable but ambitious goals. So in the middle of the next decade, we expect that you'll fill up half as often, which means you spend half as much. And over the life of a new car, the average family will save more than $8,000 at the pump. That's worth applauding. That's big news. In fact, a new report issued today shows that America is becoming a global leader in advanced vehicles. You walk into any dealership today, and you'll see twice as many hybrids to choose from as there were 5 years ago. You'll see 7 times as many cars that can go 40 miles a gallon or more. And as costs go down, sales are going up. Last year, General Motors sold more hybrid vehicles than ever before. Ford is selling some of the most fuel-efficient cars so quickly the dealers are having a tough time keeping up with the demand. So by investing in our energy security, we're helping our businesses succeed, and we're creating good middle-class jobs right here in America. So we're making progress, but the only way to really break this cycle of spiking gas prices, the only way to break that cycle for good is to shift our cars entirely, our cars and trucks, off oil. And that's why in my State of the Union address, I called on Congress to set up an energy security trust to fund research into new technologies that will help us reach that goal. Now, I'd like to take credit for this idea because it's a good idea, but I can't. Basically, my proposal builds off a proposal that was put forward by a nonpartisan coalition that includes retired generals and admirals and leading CEOs. And these leaders came together around a simple idea. Much of our energy is drawn from lands and waters that we, the public, own together. So what they proposed is, let's take some of our oil and gas revenues from public lands and put it towards research that will benefit the public, so we can support American ingenuity without adding a dime to our deficit. We can
President Obama there in Argonne, Illinois, talking about a $2 billion a new energy security trust. He mentioned it in his State of the Union address. He is unveiling it there in Argonne, Illinois, at that research laboratory there. It is an idea that in the past has received some bipartisan support. The president saying all of this designed to help break us, break the cycle of spiking gas prices and to get our cars essentially off oil. President Obama calling for a $2 billion energy security trust. I want to bring in Newsweek and Daily Beast special correspondent Michael Tomasky. Michael, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Let's talk about the president's week here. He tried to turn the page in his relationship with congressional Republicans. There was talk of polite meetings, renewed hope of bipartisanship. But today you write that the GOP, as you put it, quote, won't negotiate. Is your sense that in a few weeks we'll forget that these meetings ever even happened?
Yeah, probably. I'm not happy to say that, but I think so. The charm offensive, let's face it, it's not working. Now, this is not really Obama's fault that it's not working. It's just that the people he's trying to charm are, uniquely and emphatically immune from his charms. And they don't care about whether he's charming or whether he's rude or whether he buys them lobster dinners for the rest of their lives, or whatever. They are just against any kind of revenues, period. And as long as that's their position, we're just not going to see any progress.
No grand bargain.
I can't see it.
No medium-sized bargain.
I just can't see it, Craig. I don't see how it happens. Now, it is true that Democrats are what's the best word? They're skittish about, they're resistant to, many Democrats in Congress, something like a changed CPI on Social Security. I don't want to take the time to explain what that means. I'll just assume that your viewers know what that means. Many Democrats are reluctant to do that, but Obama has put that forward, and Democrats are considering it. So at least Democrats are considering this entitlement change. Republicans aren't considering revenues at all.
Michael Tomasky, special correspondent, Newsweek, Daily Beast. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
Still ahead, yet another Carnival cruise ship having some trouble, the second in 2 days and fourth in a month. We're going to tell you what the company is doing to compensate passengers this time.
Right now, the president is wrapping up a big announcement at one of the Energy Department's largest national laboratories for scientific research. At a time of austerity, he wants to dedicate $2 billion to alternative energy research for developing advanced technology cars. The cash would come from royalties paid by offshore oil and gas drilling. The president's calling it the Energy Security Trust. He first mentioned it in his State of the Union address. Without this infusion of cash, research labs like Argonne National Laboratory, where the president is today, stand to lose federal grants under the sequester. Lab directors warn it will devastate U.S. scientific research for decades, and the president says it's these cutting-edge breakthrough technologies that will make America a competitive jobs magnet for decades to come.
We can't afford to miss these opportunities while the rest of the world races forward. We have to seize these opportunities. I want the next great job-creating breakthroughs, whether it's in energy or nanotechnology or bioengineering. I want those breakthroughs to be right here in the United States of America, creating American jobs and maintaining our technological lead.
Most of the $90 billion in 2009 stimulus money for clean energy programs is gone. And like most things in Washington, this new trust needs congressional approval. And you can bet some Republicans will spin it as another energy tax on producers. Let's bring in Politico's Jonathan Allen to talk about this a little bit. Jonathan, I see U.S. oil production at an 8-year high, our reliance on foreign oil at a 16-year low. It sounds good, and this has an impact on everything from how we fill up at the pump, those economic questions, to foreign policy questions, how we interact with the entire Middle East. This is a gigantic change, isn't it?
It is a gigantic change. I mean, look, there are a lot of forms of energy out there, but we're still reliant on oil, more domestically now, less foreign, but still not where I think most Americans would like to be in terms of that ratio. And you're right, it has implications for foreign policy as well as domestic policy.